Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome students to lecture 3, and today we are going to talk about the break statement, the continue statement, arrays, and if we have time we are also going to discuss pointers. So with that, let us see what is the outline of today's lecture. So once again, today we are going to discuss the break statement, the continue statements, and a very important topic which is called arrays. We are going to discuss C++ arrays and why they are important, why they are commonly used, and a very similar topic called pointers that will also be discussed if we have time. So with that, let us move to first the C++ break statement. Now you will find this break statement in almost every programming language. You will find it in C++, you will find it in Java language, you are going to find it in Python language. So why do we use this keyword or this specific statement? Because the break statement can be used to jump out of the loop if, for example, a particular condition is satisfied. So for example, we have this example. In this example, when the value of I is equal to 4, then we are going to jump out of the body of the for loop. For example, when the C++ program first enters in this for loop, it will initialize the value of I to 0, then it will check the condition if I is less than 10. So in our situation it is less than 10, so it will go into the body of the for loop, and then it will test this if statement, and it says if I is equal to 4. So far I is not equal to 4, it is equal to 0. So that is why we are not going to go into the body of if statement. We are going to go ahead of whatever is after the if statement. So after the if statement we have a cout statement. So in this cout statement we are going to display the value of I, which is 0, and then we move to the next line by using \n escape sequence. Then the value of I is incremented, it becomes 1. Then again the testing is performed, I is still less than 10, and then once again we move into the body of for loop and we test the condition if I is equal to 4, which once again is not true. So we move ahead, we display the value of I, we move to the next line, and then we increment the value of I. So this process will continue until we get the value of I equals to 4. So when the value of I becomes equal to 4, then this condition is satisfied, this condition is true, which says I is equal to 4, this condition is true. We move into the body of if statement and then execute the C++ compiler, execute the break statement. So what the break statement does, it breaks out of the for loop. So we are going to break out of the for loop, and the program execution continues after the statement, after the closing curly brace. So we printed I is equal to 0, I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2, but I is equal to 3, but if the value of I becomes 4, we break out of the body of for loop, and the program execution continues whatever it is after the body of for loop. So with that is why we use the break statement, because we want to break out of for loop when a certain condition is met. So there is an opposite statement called C++ continue statement. The continue statements break one iteration in the loop if a specified condition occurs and continues with the next iteration in the loop. For example, skip the value of 4. So whenever we have I equals 4, so it will it will continue to the for loop, and it will skip whatever is after, whatever statement is in the for loop. So I'm going to practically implement this example. So for that I'm going to copy it first, because we only understand when we have a practical example. So I'm going to create a new project. Select console application. You people are already familiar with this process, and yes, the path is okay, and I'm going to say continue statement. Continue statement. So with that, let me click next, finish, and here we have our default program. I'm going to remove this line because I do not need it. I'm going to expand this window, and I'm going to select this window, delete it, go to edit, and paste my program. So here we have some formatting issue, and what is that? Okay, let me go to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so it is like not recognizing the value of I. So I'm going to, for int I is equal to 0, that's okay. So we move into the for loop. Okay, I'm going to just delete this VT. Come on here. I'm going to delete this as well. Okay, so with that, let me just format it. Okay, so that is now fine. So let me compile it for any error. So it says that it's a program build debug GNU compiler error stray. So what can be the problem? Okay, for int I is equal to 0. So I think it is not accepting our format. So let me write it again. Int I equals 0. I is less than 10. I plus plus. And inside this for loop, I'm going to say if I is equal to 4, then continue, and if it is not, then see out the value of I and handle for the new line. I'm going to delete this line because we have some formatting issue. I'm going to compile it again, and there you see now we have no error. So I'm going to run it. So there were some formatting issue. So when the I was equal to 0, it printed the value of 0, then it printed the value of 1, then 2, and it does not printed the value of 4. Why? Because you can see that if the value is equal to 4, it will continue, it will not execute any other statement after this continue statement, and we will move up and into the for loop, and we are going to increment the value of I, which is 4, and then it becomes 5, and then you print 5. So you can see here 4 is not printed. So that is why we use the for loop. So with that, let me move to the next slide. Okay, and then we have the break and continue statement. Like you can also use it in while loop. So here we are using break statement for the moment in the while loop. So initially the value of I is 0, it's an integer variable. While I is less than 10, see out the value of I, and then go to the next line, increment the value of I, and then if I becomes 4, then break out of for loop. So here, like, this is a quiz for you. How many value of I will be printed? So I think 0 will be printed, 1 will be printed, 2 will be printed, 3 will be printed, but after that no value will be printed because a specified condition is met. I becomes equal to 4, and then we break out of the for loop. So that is why we only print the value of 0, 1, 2 and 3. So you can write your own program and execute it in code blocks, and you can get a practical knowledge and implementation of whatever we are doing. So with that, let me go to the next slide. And then we are using the continue statement in the while loop, just as we use the break statement in the while loop. So here, initially, I is integer having value of 0. Then we use the while loop, I is less than 10. Okay, the condition is true. If I is equal to 4, so far it is not equal to 4, so we are going to print the value of I, we are going to increment it, go back to the while loop and test the condition. So I is 1, I is still less than 10, so then we are once again going to check the if condition. If I is equal to 4, still it is not equal to 4, but at one point it will be equal to 4. So at that point we go into the body of if statement, we increment the value of I and we continue back to the while loop. We do not print anything after this if statement. So 0 will be printed, 1, 2, 3, 4 will not be printed because we continue to the while loop, we do not print it, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 will be printed, and then you get this these values. So this is how we can use the continue statement inside the while loop. So let me tell you one thing, that you should practically implement all these programs in code blocks. And so this is your assignment. And after the online classes, I am going to check every example in your laptop. So you will keep this in mind, that you only learn when you practically implement all these programs. So with that, let me go to the next topic, which is C++ arrays. A very important topic because arrays are used everywhere. They are like they are used in complex programs, and they are very important, and you cannot get rid of arrays. So arrays are almost in every programming language, and you have to use them, you have to learn them. Arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable instead of declaring separate variables for each value. So this is a great advantage. It saves a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, and when initially gradually you become professional programming, then you will come to know the importance of array and how we can store multiple values in a single variable. To declare an array, define a variable. So declaring an array is just like defining a variable. Then what is the difference? Specify the name of the array followed by square brackets. So far you declare a variable like string cars, but in the case of arrays, you write square brackets and specify the number of elements that you want to store. So you want to store, in this case, you want to store 4 strings inside an array, which is called a cars. So now in this cars array, you can store 4 string values. So it can be Honda, Civic, Corolla, BMW, whatever you like. So with that, let us continue our discussion of arrays. We have now declared a variable that holds an array of 4 strings. To insert a value to it, so here in this example, we got 4 memory location inside the memory. So you can say that we have 1 memory location, and then we have another. So we have now 4 empty memory locations. So nothing is stored inside this location. We just have garbage values. So ultimately you have to store something inside array. But for that, you can initialize the value, just as we are going to see it in the following slides. So here you can see that to insert values to it, we can use an array literal. Place the value in comma separated list inside the curly braces. So here is an example. You have declared an array called cars. It has the size of 4, and what are the values? The values are inside the curly brace. The first one is Volvo in double quotes. The second one is BMW, you separate the two values by comma, and then you write comma once again, and then you write the third value and comma, and then the fourth value, and do not forget to put semicolon at the end of the arrow, so of the end of this statement. So this is how you declare an array and you initialize an array. But often you need to manipulate the values of array, you need to change it, you can use array in loops, and you can do a lot of other operation. So this is called one-dimensional array because it has one row. We will see that we can have two-dimensional array, three-dimensional array, four-dimensional array, n-dimensional array. But in this course, we are going to discuss only one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array. So with that, let us now create an array of three integers. So in order to create an array of three integers, you could write int, which is a keyword, the name of the array. In this case, it is mynum, then the size of the array, which is 3. And then in curly brace, you write the values, the integer values, which are 10, 20, and 30. So with that, you have declared and initialized mynum integer array. So what is the advantage now? The advantage is that if there were no arrays, you have to declare 3 variables. Arrays give you the advantage of saving your time and energies. Instead of declaring 3 variables or 10 variables or 100 or even 1000 or millions variable, you can use only one variable name and store multiple value inside that array. Okay, now there is another thing called how to access the elements of an array once you have declared and initialized the array. So you can access an array element by referring to the index number. So index number is the position number. The position starts with the value of 0, then 1, 2, and 3, and it continues. So the statement accesses the value of first element in a car. So here we have cars arrays having size of 4, having value Volvo, BMW, Ford, and Mazda. But if you write cout cars and the index term 0, so 0 here refers to this Volvo value. So Volvo will be displayed. So here I have written the output will be Volvo. So remember this point. If I write cars like here, if I write cout cars 3, so this is a quiz. So what will be displayed? So 0, 1, 2, 3. So the value of 3 will be displayed. So this is how arrays work. Remember that C is in small case. So with that, we move on. You can also change an array element. To change the value of a specific element, refer to it by the index number. So for example, car 0 and the car is Opel. So here the Volvo will be replaced by Opel. So in this example, we have this cars array having value of Volvo, BMW, Ford, and Mazda. Volvo is stored at position 0, BMW is stored at position 1, Ford is stored at position number 2, and Mazda is stored at position number 3. So if we write car 0 equals Opel, then the Volvo will be replaced by Opel. So now the output will be Opel instead of Volvo. So that is how you can also change an array element or the value of the array element. You can also use C++ array, and they are commonly used in loops. So you can loop through the array element with the for loop. So for example, in order to display Volvo, BMW, Ford, and Mazda, you can use the for loop. So first here we have declared and initialized an array. Then inside for loop we are going to display cars of I, which is 0, which will display Volvo. Then I will be incremented, and then the condition will be tested. I is still less than 4. Cars of 1 will be then displayed, which is BMW. Then the next line, and then the value of I will be once again incremented, and you displayed the rest of the values. So This is how you can use arrays inside loop. And once again, let me tell you, they are commonly used inside a loops. So arrays are commonly used because you cannot write so many statements to get elements out of the array. So you can save your time and energies and putting using array inside the loops. So here you can see that we also display the index of each element together with its value. So at position number 0, Volvo is displayed. So I has a value of 0 initially, and cars of I has the value of Volvo, and then I will be incremented. I is 1, I is still less than 4, 1 will be displayed, and car of 1 is BMW. Then similarly you display Ford and Mazda, and then when the value of I becomes 4, I is not less than 4, so in that case the condition is false. We move to the next statement after the for loop. So with that, I think we should stop here. It is your assignment to practically implement all these programs using code blocks or any other IDE. I'm going to see you in the next lecture. Till then, Allah Hafiz and take care.